All right. Hello, world. I am still Cam, and this is still the Real Resilience Talk podcast. This is episode 78, and we are feeling great today. Playing the tracks by my Chichi Rex. I usually use the other track, but today I just wanted to play Receipts. So that's what it's going to be. All right. But as always, please understand this show is no reflection of or endorsement from any official organizations, to include the DOD, the Department of Defense, the Department of War, whatever we want to call it these days. And we may reference our experience, but we are not getting an endorsement from any of those organizations. And also, First Amendment is in full effect. So we're going to talk about some hard subjects that need to be talked about, mainly on resilience, because I think that is, I'm biased. I think that is how we can keep moving forward. And y'all have heard my interpretation of that. But this show is inspired by the words of Dr. Maya Angelou, which is this: if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, shut up. No, she didn't say shut up. She said change your opinion. All right. So starting with those words and looking at how we're rolling forward, we got an amazing guest today on the show. Glenn Sturm is with us today. He is a man who defines resilience and has been a complete servant in his lifetime. But I'm going to let him get into that and share that. So, Mr. Glenn, thank you for being here today, sir. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me, Cam. You have a great show. Look forward to
I
talk.
appreciate that. I am looking forward to it as well, my friend. And thank you for joining and for just the enthusiasm. And we had fun with the sound checks and had to battle traffic. We had to battle all the things, but weather and all the other things. But guess what we do? We be resilient and brilliant. And here we are, my friends, being water as usual. Like Bruce Lee said, be water, my friend. In that spirit, sir, Glenn, what is resilience to you? And can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I mean, resilience is hard to define in just an abstract term. Here's what happened to me on January 21st, 2009. I'm at the Atlanta airport at gate B13, getting ready to get on a plane to Raleigh, North Carolina, to go give a speech. And I'm sitting there, and my phone rings. So back in 2009, we didn't get a lot of spam calls. So I actually said, okay, well, I answered because I have to return the call when I get to Raleigh. And it was one of my doctors on the phone. Well, I ran marathons in those days and did triathlons and stuff. And this doctor was one of the docs I did those with. And so she said on the phone, she said, Glenn, we got the results of the biopsies back. And I said, what biopsies? And she said, the ones we did in December. I said, this is January 21st. Okay, whatever. When I don't know about you, but when I have medical tests, if I don't get an answer, you normally just assume everything's okay. And I said, okay, whatever. And she said, Glenn, they came back positive. You got cancer. And I said, what? She said, yeah, you got cancer, and we need to see you immediately. And I thought for a second. Now, I'm the only lawyer in that group that runs. They give me abuse all the time just because it's a fun thing for doctors to do, to give lawyers a hard time. So I thought for about 30 seconds. I said, okay, who put you up to this? It's not a funny joke. And she said, Glenn, you have cancer. I need to see you today or tomorrow. And I said, okay, well, I mean, holy smokes. And so, it was just a total shock because they've been doing biopsies on me for almost, 9 years. And I had never heard anything about it. And everything had always come back negative or no answer. So I got on the plane and flew up to University of North Carolina and got to see a Clemson Carolina basketball game. I'd never seen an ACC basketball game, so I've been looking forward to that. But just started getting, I was quiet. I'm normally not a quiet guy. And so I was, into myself, but I had to get ready for that speech. So I called my wife at the time and told her what happened. She's very smart and everything. So, we got through the process. I got on a plane, flew home, and had the biopsy the next day. And the doc came back and says, yeah, Glenn, it is positive for cancer. We need to get you in to see an expert. But it's going to take a while because there's only one of those experts in Atlanta. And so the one thing I learned about cancer more than anything else is the most difficult thing is waiting for the answers. Having no answer and you're waiting is like, why? Why should it take this long? So anyway, it gave me a chance to read. And when I'm reading, I came across a gentleman who had died from my cancer, an article he had written. And when he died, he had just published this like a week or two before he died. He had had 6 months from his notice until he died. And he said how lucky he was. Well, that was in the first few sentences of the article. I'm sitting here thinking, how can you be lucky if you're going to die of cancer and you know it? And then he goes on to explain why. He said, well, he had had friends die in Vietnam. He'd had friends die of heart attacks. He'd had friends die in car accidents. But he had time. He had time to make things right with his family, time to hug his grandchildren, time to do all those things that his friends never had the time for. So he was blessed and he was thankful. And that was really eye-opening. I didn't know how long I had. I never asked the question. But I made a decision that day that I would never, ever let cancer define me. And I said, it's not going to define me. I'm going to celebrate life every day. And I don't know how long I'm going to get, but every day I'm here, I'm going to try to make the world a better place. And so that's been my mission since January 21st, 2009. And, I've done all sorts of funny things. I've got the wonderful thing. I try to put a smile on somebody's face every day. Then sometimes you have to make it more challenging. So you're on the phone with a call center person. It's obvious they've had a rough day, but you can just hear it in their voice. And then you got to make them try to laugh. You got to say something that they're going to laugh about. So the only way you can do that is make fun of yourself. And so you do things to try to make them laugh. And you see somebody, who's not had a great day, you do it. You go through a drive-through and you give somebody a $10 tip. I mean, I can afford that. A lot of people can't. But, you do something that shows to somebody else that you appreciate them and you respect them. So you put a smile on their face. And then occasionally you'll run into the person that's having a rough day. And see, I said, they always will figure out that I've got cancer. I've been on cancer. Now I'm in my 18th year of continuous treatment. I've had over 6,300 days of oral chemo and over 530 days of IV chemo. And so, they'll say something. I said, well, there's one thing I live by. They said, what's that? I said, we must all give up hope for a better yesterday. I can't change my cancer diagnosis. I can change tomorrow. I can make tomorrow a better day. I can make tomorrow a better day for somebody else. And when I do that by doing something for them or putting a smile on their face, it's proven that when you do that, your life gets more positive. So when you put a smile on somebody else's face, you end up with a smile on your face. When you put a smile on somebody else's face, the chemical changes in your body that you get from the enjoyment that you get from helping somebody else, it just changes things. And so the last thing I learned, and I learned this actually from my dad, who was a career Army officer, and from school teachers, is only you can stop you. Nobody else can stop you. So I'll give you the example that's the easiest one for me to give. And so Dad was an Army officer, career Army officer, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. And I'm going to sidetrack this for a second. If you look at the average combat arms people who were on active duty 9/11 who stayed for 20 more years, they had 6 times the days of combat my dad had combined in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. So the toll we have placed on today's veterans, the young veterans, is so much higher than it has been on other people. We don't understand that because nobody talks about it. And when you have a CIB combat infantryman's badge with 2 stars, that means World War II, Korea, Vietnam in combat. Everybody talks about those guys, the greatest generation. Yeah, they are. But we had drafts back then, and people didn't see as much combat, and the war didn't last as long. But back to only you can stop you is I was in a 4th high school, and I'm second weekend, Cam, in my 4th high school. And the teacher, we had a parent-teacher conference, and my my teacher told my mom and dad that she didn't think I should go to college, I should go to trade school because I didn't have it in me. My mom just looks at me and said, okay, you made a great first impression. She didn't say that, but that was what she was thinking.
Yeah, that was a look.
Yeah, and my dad was like, yeah, okay, I'll kick your ass if you do that. Um, and so, you know, about a week later, we had a test in Florida called the Florida Senior Placement Test. It was a test you took to get into the university system in Florida. It's like the SAT. And the scores came out, and I was the first kid in my high school to ever get, in the history of the high school, to ever get a perfect score. So
You
that
weren't college
wonderful,
material.
but I'm not college material. Right, exactly. So that teacher who said that I shouldn't be going to college, I had fun with her asking her questions. I said, did you ever, when I came back my first semester of college, I'd done very well academically. And I said, did you get in the University of Florida? Oh, no, you didn't. You went to teacher school. I said, did you ever have a 4.0? And she said, and I said, well, no, you went to a teacher school, so they gave 4.0s away. So were you ever ranked number one in your class? And I said, well, guess what? I'm all three of those things now. I said, quit being judgmental. Don't judge others. Try to help others. And if you make your mission to help other people find their way, teaching other people through their interests, not by just teaching rote memorization.
Yes.
I mean, it'll change. You have the chance of changing a life. And if you change one life, you change the history of the world.
Wow,
So,
that's deep.
yeah, and it's true though. And so when you work with people and putting smiles on people's faces, and my friends and people who know me well know I do this, and they just kind of start laughing when they see me go into that mode. So basically, I'm trying to help somebody else, but my friends there at like a lunch counter or something, and they see me go into that mode of trying to get a smile, and they start laughing. Well, guess what? Now I'm going to help two people today. Okay.
Yeah, that's true, because they over there laughing too.
Yeah, that's right. And so but you see what I'm saying is, and for God's sakes, be considerate of others.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I mean, the judgmental stuff drives me nuts, and so does the you know the failure. I mean, there's a TV ad on today about women saying, "What's a gentleman?" A gentleman opens a door. Well, I'm 70 years old, and so I'm still single after it's a different story, but I've been divorced now for in my 18th year. I got served right after I got diagnosed, um, but that's fine. I mean, it's worked out wonderfully for me and for my kids. But when when you're in that tough situation, you know, you go over to a woman and you open a door for them, and they say, "Oh, you don't have to do that." I have a great answer for that. And you pick up the check for dinner. You have to do that. That TV commercials, you're not a gentleman if you don't do these things. Well, some people don't have the resources to do that.
That's
I,
facts. Yes.
okay, and if you don't have the resources, I don't expect people to do it. But if you do have the resources, ask the women sometimes will object to me doing it, and I'll say, "Well, I've got one rule." And they said, "What's that?" I said, "If I'm fortunate enough to see my mom again, and I haven't picked up the check, and if I haven't opened your door, she'll give me more abuse than you could ever give me for doing it." Because my mom taught me that's what I was supposed to do, and you don't break mom's rules. And things like that. But that's a humorous way to approach it. It's not a confrontational way to approach it. So what you try to do is you look for common ground too. And that's the other thing that people aren't doing enough of these days. Well,
That's key. Yes.
my son's brilliant, not smart. He's brilliant. And his teacher one day said, "Glenn, Daniel's smarter than I am. Daniel's, I think, smarter than you are, no matter how smart you are." He said, "And maybe he might be smarter than both of us combined." But Daniel could be the most argumentative kid I've ever met because he was so smart and he was almost always right. So we started a new rule instead of arguing. I said, we're not going to talk about a subject until we find out the things about that subject we agree upon. And once we find out everything we agree upon, okay, then we can look for our differences and try to understand our perspectives. Because
Wow.
it's probably because you have information I don't have, or I have information you don't have, or maybe both those cases. But if we start with a foundation of agreement, and then we go approach the issue with curiosity to find out what the other person knows that you don't, it changes everything. And it turns it from a hostile environment to a learning environment and a curiosity environment. And if you want to create a better country, have a country of curious people.
Yeah.
People are just
Yes.
inquisitive,
Yes.
not judgmental,
Yes.
just curious. I love
Yeah.
curiosity.
Yeah.
So,
We
I
need it.
mean, yeah, I'm writing another book right now because it's turned out that there's something called a integrated multidisciplinary cancer team. How about that for a phrase? Also known as
That's a lot of
MDT.
syllables. I can't spell it, but
Yeah.
I think I picked it up.
Yeah, but think about this. A integrated multidisciplinary cancer care team. So how many people are on that team? Maybe as many as 50 people could be on it. Okay, but most people it's like 5 or 6. But people who are getting
It's a football
treated
team.
by a team approach, well, that's a good analogy. Imagine like you're on the offensive line though, where you have to communicate with each other and you have to work together and you have to know what everybody else is going to do. Okay, there can be no drops of communication. We had a bad drop for me last year and I almost died because of it. But these teams, the people who are treated by these teams, um, there's a 70% reduction in the mortality rate on average. Did you hear what I just said, the number? 70%,
70. Wow.
70% reduction on average in the mortality rate. Now, some of the cancers haven't gotten that good. For instance, breast cancer's only had a reduction of about 15%, and head and neck cancer's about 16%. My case is 90% reduction. Okay, and so what does that mean? Well, it's a group of people who work together, develop a consensus on treatment with the patient
With the
about how to
patient.
handle
With.
the patient. So if you're a siloed-based approach, which basically might mean just a doctor only, there has been effectively no reduction in the mortality rates. So the question is, if you were facing a 70% reduction in the cancer rate, let's say you were a company, a drug company, and you created a pill that was going to reduce the average cancer rate, mortality rates to go down by 70%. How much would your company be worth?
Lots.
It's, yeah, a lot, hundreds of billions, maybe $1 trillion. Well, this is just people learning how to work together as a team. And a lot of cases, you don't have the resources in a community because if you live in a town like mine, you don't have all the resources you need. So then if you're the head of the hospital, what are you going to do to make those resources available? Who are you going to affiliate with so the resources are there? If you're a major institution, what are you doing about it? So my next book is on this topic, and it goes through my history of cancer. Am I in my 18th year? And then for the administrators, there are 3 introductions. There's one for what the team is, the components of the team, the people. And then there's one for the caregivers, and then there's one for the hospital administrators. At the end of it, I'm not very polite about it because I said to those people, the question is whether your institution is providing this service. It isn't. If it isn't providing the highest quality service of a multi-dimensional cancer care team, how are you going to fix this problem? If you can't fix the problem, where should you send your patients? Because you shouldn't have any
Because
more
obviously
with
what
you.
you're doing is not effective.
Right, exactly. So I wrote an introduction for the patients, and it says, if your hospital isn't doing this, where are you going to go? Because I don't know about you, but if I was facing with, let's say a 50% death rate chance, mortality rate, and we can reduce that by 70% on average, that means we're going to go to 85% survival rate from 50. So do you think I'd want to make that happen? Yeah. So the other question is this is a fact statement. It started in Australia and Europe, this team approach. In Germany, it's now a statute that the team's decision on how to treat the cancer is the process you're going to follow. The doctor can't do a different process without getting the team's approval. Um, That's how far it's gone there. We're well behind the curve. Uh, but why haven't we talked about this? Why hasn't this been on the national news?
That's a great question, I love the spirit of what you're saying, and it's not just spirit and happy talk, folks, that he's saying. This is literal numbers and drops and reducing the mortality rate. And it's like a law of nature when it comes to especially humans, but I think in all organisms on this planet, um, we're better together. We're better together.
Well,
And
absolutely we are. And let me give you a little more. So the Williams-Thompson study, which came out last year, studied 56,187 cancer patients. Okay, it validated these statistics. Okay, I mean the NIH has published reports on it. But there's an interesting. I mean, I'm getting ready to write an article on it, and I mean a book on it, and there's about 30 articles that are part of it. The National NCI, National Cancer Institute, has said in their recommendations on the decision making, how you make the decision, that the patient should be in the meetings where these teams are in place, multidisciplinary teams are in place. That when they have a meeting, that the patient should be there. I'm
should
not
or
aware of a
shall?
thing. Should
Should.
they should be
Yes.
there because it's your life.
That's right.
Don't
It's
you think you
yours.
want to
Yes.
answer?
That's right.
Yeah, it's like, you're in the end, you're going to make the decision, but how can you make the decision if you don't know what's going on? You know, it-
Wow. Hmm.
yeah.
We don't know
So,
what we don't know.
right. And so guess what? How many institutions are putting the patients in those? Almost none. So there's a NCI, which is, basically one of the most powerful organizations, says you should do this,
Hmm.
or at least give the patient the opportunity, and almost nobody does it. Why is that? Well, a lot of cases it's because the doctors don't want them there. I've read the focus groups on it, and I mean, you wouldn't believe how much I've read about this stuff. The focus groups say the doctors don't want the patients there because it might inhibit their conversations. Well, if you can't, I mean, think about that. If it's going to inhibit your conversation, how do you ever tell the patient to start with what's going on?
That just shows how the out of touch factor,
Yep.
just out of touch.
Well, and so let's go a bit further. So why isn't it on TV? Well, who's the biggest advertiser? Well, I don't know if the biggest, but let's say one of the very biggest advertisers in the country. It's the pharmaceutical companies.
That's exactly true.
But who's next? Maybe it's the insurance companies. Okay, well, the insurance companies, I mean, think about me. I've been on chemo for 18 years, 6,000 days, 6,300 days plus, and all the IV, 55 surgeries. Um, okay, they don't like me because I've lived too long. If we're not as successful, I would have died quicker. Well, I mean, they'll never say that, but the bottom line is the actuaries will tell you that there's a certain duration people should last. Well, if this system is so much better, it means people are going to be on chemo longer, but they're going to have a high quality of
That's
life.
more money, right? Is
It's
that
more
more
money.
money?
Yep, a lot more money. Yeah, and so, I mean, there are all sorts of constituencies that I don't know for sure that they're fighting this, but it doesn't make any sense. There are people who've written articles that say it's not accurate, and they've been totally debunked. So, I mean, my first book was Cancer Set Me Free, and that goes to the
That was the first
resilience thing.
publication. That's the first book.
Yeah, no, my first
Cancer
book I
set me
wrote,
free.
yeah, because
Yeah, cancer
basically
set me free, folks.
yeah, and so what happened was I was a big time lawyer, you know, chairman of a major law firm, corporate department major law firm, then on the compensation committee, basically one of the guys that ran the firm, and I had to stop because we were doing $1 billion transactions, and the insurance companies were scared to death I'd screw something up.
Right.
So so I had to stop practicing. Well, guess what? It did set me free. So now I pretty good astrophotographers going all over the world shooting eclipses and writing books and playing a decent round of golf, nothing else. But I'm living a long time, and
And you're
you
free.
know
You're free from
I'm
the
free.
constraints of the rat
Yes,
race.
exactly.
That's amazing.
So
Yeah. I
Well,
get the title now. I was like, oh, the title at first I was like, hold on, yeah, there's got to be some more context. But
yeah,
yeah,
and so if
I get
you,
it.
I've got these little green bands on me. I don't know if you can see these things, but those things, they all say
Love it.
celebrate life in lymphoma. And on the inside of it, my son had seen the bands, and he's a lot younger than his two older sisters, but he has always made money and had money. He's a bright little kid, and he on the inside of it says for my, you can't even see it, but he made 15,000 of them. It says for my dad, DJS, and that's his initials. And he sent them to all the cancer centers who treat my kind of cancer. So, it's how do you not celebrate that? I mean, my grandson, you know, I'm moving to be closer to him because he's the center of the universe for me. And if I can make his life better, it's fine. But it's just one thing after another. What you do is to try to help others. And so there's a young lady who you probably need to meet. She got diagnosed with brain cancer at the age of 19, had a boatload of surgeries, and she started the Brain Cancer Foundation. And so at their next big meeting they're having, which is got a fundraiser, there's a 4 foot by 6 foot picture that I took climbing the mountains in Italy that she fell in love with. So I only sell one copy of any picture, but 100% of the revenue goes to support, children's health or something like her business that she's put together, her foundation. I made a promise that I would do that with my talent, and it's turned out to make me smile because I go there and tell the story, and then see somebody write a ridiculous check for a photograph. Now, it's the only copy that'll ever be available,
Right.
which makes it unique. But the real purpose of it is helping somebody else, which makes your life more fulfilling. And so the fun part about it is at the very end of the thing, when I've signed the picture at the end, I signed the back of it. That's a different story. And I look at the person. I said, "Do you want me to put one of one on the back of it? This is one of one issue images. Just the only one." And they always get this big smile on their face. And I said, "You can put it on there if you want to, but I'll do it too. But even if you put it on, I'll initial it." And so, I mean, it's just a way of giving back. And so
Yeah.
it's something we've lost part of the art of, um, recognizing how blessed we all are. So I live in this fairly wealthy city, to put it politely, but it's got too many rich people. And
Call it like it is.
yeah, well, and some of them have, they think their lives are terrible or something, and they'll complain about the United States or something. And then I finally look at them and I said, well, they know I'm military, and I said, would you like to go on a military trip with me? And they know that sometimes I'm able to arrange a carrier trip where we take people out to get them indoctrinated to military. They land on an aircraft carrier during workups. And then you get a cat shot and you take off. And so they're thinking that. And they'll say, well, where are we going? I said, let me work it out and everything else. So we'll get about a week to 10 days before we go. And they said, well, Glenn, we really want to know where we're going. And I said, well, we're going to go to Mogadishu, Somalia. And they look at you and say, huh? I said, well,
Hmm.
you think this country's so shitty? Well, I just wanted to show you someplace it really is.
That's real talk right there. That's real.
And for some reason, they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know what the current statistics are, but everybody in the United States, everybody who's born here is blessed. Now, some are
Yeah.
blessed a whole lot more than others, but
That's fair.
but we're all blessed. And here's the other thing: is one of the things we found out at an institute, research institute that I'm involved with, is if you look at the inner city kids, their IQs are normalized the same as the kids in the nice areas. And the problem is they don't have the opportunities or the parent leadership that they need. So, so the thing that we have a program called Science Saturdays where we bring smart kids in, any kid can come, but we're able to
Hmm.
identify the smart kids at very early ages. And my theory has always been, and theories are a lot of times wrong. So I'm going to say this could be wrong. But the kids who get into the gangs and become leaders of the gangs are the smart ones.
That is
Well,
true. Yes, that is very
so
true.
but if you get those smart kids and you show them what they can do with science, you might change their track. And if you just change one track, you've changed the world. You change
Yeah,
one
I love
kid's.
that you said that. You said you change one. You say you change one person's life, you could change the whole world.
That is
And why
correct.
isn't that true? That
Yeah.
is, phew.
And if you worry about that, you're worrying about others and how to take care of others.
Yes.
And that changes your life because you're going to be successful all the time. No, but you'll be more successful than others. I mean, I have a family that's helped me because of my cancer. The father's helped me out, just volunteer. I pay him when he comes to help me on something. But the other night we had dinner, and they've got a 12-year-old daughter. I never met her before, or about 3 weeks ago. And so um, one of the things I'm big about is we're trying to figure out how to do this is helping kids find scholarship money to go to school. Because I went to college on an ROTC scholarship. They paid tuition, books, everything. And I did well on the graduate exams. So I had a fellowship and they already paid for my master's degree when I was on active duty. And then the GI Bill paid for law school. So basically my
Hmm.
entire education was paid for by the government. And those
Yes.
scholarships are still available. But this young lady,
Still available,
she is,
everybody. Still available. I just want to
oh,
throw it out
absolutely.
there.
And please, yeah, please do it. And by the way, most of the people who have them today are not going on active duty other than for their initial training because the military is smaller. But this young lady is a 4-point student, and Spanish is a new language. I mean, English is a new language for her, and she's still a 4-point student. Works her tail off in school, and her mom and dad don't have any money, and they're worried about how she's going to pay for college. So I just sat there and said, "Your college is taken care of. I'm paying for it." I said, "Now you got to get the grades.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
have to get the grades that you're capable of getting, but." Your dad has been so good to me and helped me so much for the past 20 years that the least I can do is pay for your college, but you've got to earn it.
That's
And I
right.
know your mom and dad will make sure you earn it because they're not going to ask you to pay for something that's wasting money. So go get it. And so I said, don't tell anybody about this because,
Oh man, that's beautiful.
yeah, don't tell anybody. But if you can get into Harvard, you're going. Now, I mean, the thing is, though, is her family doesn't have really any income. She gets into Harvard, she's going to get full scholarships, but then there's the money
Yeah.
that it takes to live while you're going to a school like that, and that's a lot.
Yes.
So,
For
but
sure.
so I may not be around when she goes, but it's a meeting with the lawyers tomorrow, and it'll be in my trust tomorrow that's taken care of. And again, change a life, and you change the world. And I mean, that
Yeah.
young
You
lady.
might be enabling the next president of one day to lead us to better. And you just never know. What reminds me of what you're doing is the quote of Jim Carrey, and I have it tattooed on my forearm to remind myself of it. But he said in one of his commencement speeches, he said, "The effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is." And in what you've shared just so far in this conversation, you are a rich man where it counts, Glenn.
Well, that's a story. My mom's brother asked her if I was rich or if I was wealthy. And my mom said he's wealthy. Says it has nothing to do with
Yeah,
money.
that's facts. Yeah, rich, wealthy. I'll right click it for
Yeah.
some more synonyms. In the spirit of the effect you have on others, you got Fort Knox
Well,
because that's the
we
real
all can
value
do better, but we can all do better at it every day. And
every day.
every day. And so, I've got my first novel was supposed to come out this month, and I've stopped it because I finished writing it, but I've stopped it because I've got to get this book out on multidisciplinary cancer care teams out because this is going to save
What's the title
lives.
of that one going to be?
Let me see if I got it here. Well, this is the working title, but it's called A New
The sense
Hope.
of urgency. I love it. The New
A
Hope.
New Hope. Yeah, The New Hope. The compelling promise of multidisciplinary cancer care teams. And we're looking for it to come out April 1st. and not be a fool for writing it. Um, but no,
Not be a fool for writing.
yeah. So I mean, it's 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 stunning, the math. I mean, it's my type of cancer. It was originally, mine is 70%. My daughter was told when I got diagnosed that I was going to have 2.5 years, and I'm in my 18th year now. When I was a lawyer, I did big deals, and so when you do a big deal, you have to have a team of lawyers. You need tax lawyers, you need
Right.
probably litigators, you need antitrust lawyers, you need all these people. When I got started, I needed a team, and so
Team.
what happened was my primary physician. It was a rough period in my life. My dog died. My mentor died. My dad was, close to death, and I got served with divorce papers. So my guy said, Glenn, you need to get a psychiatrist. So I got a psychiatrist, which I think is probably the second most important doctor for anybody with cancer, because, and that comes my golden. She likes to be pet sometimes, but yeah, and I got two of them here. So, but what happens is everybody who has cancer is afflicted with something called cancer fatigue syndrome. You're tired all the time. Well, mine was worse than that. I was falling asleep in the middle of the day, and so I got diagnosed with narcolepsy. Well, they gave me a pill that gave me energy back. You were military, right, Cam? Is that, I've gotten that impression. Were you in the military ever?
Yes, yes, and I wanted to tell you this. Thank you for your service and for your family service. Yeah, United States Marine Corps, hoorah, 23
Ooh,
years.
I'm okay. I have 37 years commissioned service.
Look
So,
at that. Look at
yeah.
the through line of your life is just service. I gotta say that. And I talked about the Jim Carrey quote, but the I ask sometimes people. I ask them in I do public speaking. I say, who wants to be happy? Who wants to be successful? And they raise their hands, and I say, well, listen to this. And Dr. Viktor Frankl said it. He said, happiness and success can't be pursued; they must ensue, and they only do so as the unintended side effect of one's personal dedication to a cause or to a person other than oneself. So it's just that's where the happiness and success lies that everyone's
Well,
chasing so much of.
so my. Okay, you're gonna love this. Okay, this is my second book, Warriors Hate
Warriors
War.
hate war. Warriors say I'm
Yep.
writing that down.
Yeah, and it is how since World War II we've lost every war that we've been involved in except for one, and that was General Powell and the Powell Doctrine.
Yes. The Powell Doctrine. Hit
Okay.
them all. Hit them up. Yes.
Yeah, and so General Powell, why can't we learn? But he was a servant leader. So I'll give you a General Powell
That's right.
story. So during the Gulf War, when he had been promoted to chairman of the Joint Chiefs, he came to visit FORSCOM headquarters. And I was a reserve officer, but I was there and I was a bag toter that day. I was a field grade officer, but when you got multiple 4 stars in the hallway, you're the bag toter. I mean, it's like,
Oh,
you
that's right. Or
understand,
go get the coffee or the food for the meeting.
whatever, right, whatever
Yeah.
needed.
Ah,
So,
sir. Yes, sir.
so this young African American buck sergeant opens the door to the hallway and he steps in front of 2 4 stars, 3 3 stars, and a bunch of field grade officers. And the guy just stopped, like, oh my gosh, it's the worst thing that could ever happen to a buck sergeant. And General Powell, who had been the FORSCOM commander, said, I don't remember the kid's name, and I should. General Powell stopped and said, Sergeant so and so, how's your wife Martha doing? Did she get good treatment? And then in those days, we'd give the generals a 3x5 card with everybody's name on it and who they were going to see, their wife's name, the kids' names. Powell didn't have any of that. He knew the sergeant's name. He knew the wife's name. He knew the 3 sons' names. And he knew that the eldest son was a good football player. And he said, how did he do?
What?
And yeah, he was a servant leader. He was the definition.
Yes.
He was the commander of FORSCOM, which is it's a headquarters building, but he's got 1,000 people there.
Yes, for For sure.
he knew that sergeant his wife had a major medical problem, and he knew who she was. He was checking up on it. He said, running into you saved me from having my deputy go find you. And I mean,
What
you
a
have to know,
man. What a
Powell
man.
was yeah, he was a great intellect and a great leader, and
Most
that's what you
definitely.
hope.
One of
That's
my
what you
heroes.
hope for. Yeah, and mine too. I wish he'd been president, um,
Same.
but yeah. So I mean, but the thing is, how do you have a guy like that? I mean, but it's called servant leadership. When you're at when you're at that level, you know, I always said when my last few jobs, my job is to make sure that every unit has everything they need to be successful. Okay? Whether it's parts for the front axle on a Humvee, which were breaking all the time at one point, or and hopefully this is not an issue. Whether it was a better commander or a better command sergeant major, you assess all the time, and then you have to assess yourself to see if you're the right person for the job you're doing. And if you're
Amen.
not, tell your boss you're not. I mean it's that's very simplistic, but it really isn't. That's what it's about. Because once your troops know they can trust you. So my dad used to say a line that I didn't get until I did his eulogy. He always reminded me. He pounded this in my head. He said, Glenn, if you're late for the line of departure, people die. And I thought that was a literal thing. If you're late for the line of departure, people die, because they will. But the statement was a lot deeper than that. It's about trust. Because your adjacent commanders on both sides, if you're late for the line of departure, you're exposing both of them. You're exposing their flanks. And not only your people are going to die, but their people are going to die.
That's right.
And if they don't trust you, the whole system breaks. That line that if he said it, 1,000 times, he said it 10,000 times when I was growing up. If you're late for the line of departure, people die. When I wrote the eulogy, I said, Dad, I can't believe it took me this long to learn what you were meaning. But it's so special.
It really
Yeah,
is.
my dad started out as a private and retired as an '06. So, you
Hey,
know,
Mustang.
absolutely. Commanded a
Yes,
company in
Mustang.
World War Commanded a company in World War II, and during the Battle of the Bulge, battalion headquarters was wiped out, and he, as a first lieutenant, became a battalion commander. So he
Wow.
was a
Wow.
senior
Wow.
officer in the
Wow.
battalion. He was very blessed, and okay, here's the funniest story ever though. I was asked to take over a company that had failed, a regimental headquarters company, failed its IG inspection twice, and the regimental commander asked me to take it over. I said, "Sir, can I think about this tonight?" Because I want to talk to my wife and stuff. Because I just had a no deficiencies note at IG, which you're never supposed to do, by the way. You're supposed to have something wrong.
Something. Maybe not a
Yeah,
finding,
and
but something.
yeah, but the IG told me to not ever do it again. And so I came back the next day, and you'll understand this. I hope we have military vets around on the call watching
Yes.
this. We'll understand it. And the next morning, I said to the regimental commander, "I'll do it under this condition." He says, "What's that?" I said, when you have commanders call, it's battalion commanders and me and nobody else. The XO can't be there. Command sergeant major can't be there unless he's specifically invited separately. But it is a commanders only meeting. And the regimental commander looks at me, just kind of, "What in the hell are you doing?"
Mm-hmm.
And then he said, "Glenn, what you're doing is you're becoming the center of all information for the regimental staff." I said, "Yes, sir," because I'm the center of the information. If those staff officers don't cooperate, I'm getting ready for the IG, I'm not going to share information with them. But if we work together, I'll be their best ally. And he looked at me and he said, "LT, that's the smartest thing I've ever heard a lieutenant say. How in the hell did you come up with that?" I said, "I called my dad last night."
That's
So, I
amazing.
mean, he just looked at me and said, "So you got a consultant now, huh?" I said, "Yes, sir. And I'll use him every chance I can get."
That's
But
right.
no, but the thing is you use the resources you've got. to get the
Use
best
resources.
results and identify resources because people want to help you because it makes them feel better. But don't be afraid to ask for help.
Y'all heard that? Don't be afraid to ask for help. Like, help people help you. As well intentioned and as well equipped as some people are to help, they don't read minds. It's a really hard thing. So you have to identify and speak out. People do want to help you. It feels sometimes that nobody cares, but there are people that want to be there. They just don't know what they don't know. So help them know that.
So you're a Marine. I'll give you one more story. Uh, During Gulf Two, there's a an E6 Marine reservist who I call Radar, who works at the infusion center at Yale, and he solves every problem. He is Radar. I mean, he's the real thing. Every problem there is, he can solve it. So have you ever heard of Spider Nyland, General Spider Nyland in the Marine Corps? 4-star.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I've heard that name. Yes.
Well, he works at this institution. I was the chairman of it for a while. And I got hold of General Nyland. I said, Spider, can I have your coin, please? He said, what are you going to do with it? I said, I'm going to give it to an E6 who's getting ready to be deployed. And I said, he's the best E6 I've ever seen. I said, he's unbelievable. He is Radar. He's really Radar. And he shouldn't be wasted. But that's a Marine Corps issue. But if he has the Vice Commandant of the Marine Corps Air coin in his wallet, that will get some attention.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, what's his name? I gave it to Spider, and Spider sent me the coin. Well, Radar uses that coin to win bets at bars. And he says it's the best thing anybody's ever given him. This has gotten that coin. But what happened was when he was over there, he got snagged by some people. And because he was the problem solver, he came back as a gunny, and he should have. And he got hurt over there. But he's a special, special person. And to a person like that, you don't think they need any help.
That's
But guess
so
what?
true.
We all need help at times.
Yes. Yes, we
And
do.
handing him that coin was a big deal. And the people at Yale, last fall, I had a spine surgery. I had a tumor on my L3 root nerve. And so I couldn't be there around Christmas. But every year, I guess it's been 15 years now that I've framed and signed a picture for every employee, starting with the janitors up, who are
Everybody
in
matters.
infusion. Everybody matters. They're all important. They're all critical. But they all get a signed picture from me. So next week I'm doing that. I'm giving the signed pictures to everybody because they're all wondering where I've been. Is he still alive? Yeah, well, yeah. The reports of my demise have been greatly exaggerated. Um, so I'm going to be back there on the 11th and give them the pictures. I'm framing 100 of them this year and signing them and they love it. The best day that it's a pain. Sometimes it's a pain in the rear end because it's a lot of work. But the best days every year I'm at chemo is when I run into one of those people who work there and they pull out their phone and they show me a picture of the pictures hanging over their sofa or in their dining room, and they got 10 of those pictures up, and
Yes.
they're smiling, and it makes me smile like you can't ever believe. But if you have an idea of service, the people who are taking care of you, you have to take care of. And
Y'all heard
as you
that?
know, yeah. Well, I mean,
That's sorry.
it
I
goes,
had to reemphasize it for the audience.
yeah.
Take care
Well,
of
but
people that take care of you.
well, yeah, but it goes further. I mean, and it's in the military. You're trained as a leader. In order to take care of other people, you got to take care of yourself. Okay. And so when you're a cancer patient and you have all these surgeries and stuff, what can you do to take care of yourself? You listen for nuggets. Okay. And so I'll give you a nugget. So this woman was this brand new nurse I had. She's older age. Came in and was talking, and she said, Glenn, I understand your military background. Yeah. So my dad was too. I never met him. I said, well, what do you mean you never met him? She said, he was killed during the Battle of the Bulge. I said, really? I'm sitting here thinking, well, my dad was there. She said he was a battalion commander and he got killed. So I didn't say anything. I went home that night, got back to Jackson, got my computer out, and there's something called the Green Book. It's the U.S. Army History of World War II. And I found a copy of the book in brand new condition of the Battle of the Bulge, and I ordered it. And it was delivered. And it turned out that when her dad was killed, my dad became the battalion. So what I did was I put a flag on it, on the book. And then I did research about her dad. Her dad was a real hero. I didn't know how much she knew about him. But the next time I was there, she was my infusion nurse. And I gave her the book back. And I gave her all these records I was able to identify of her dad as a hero. Well, she was in her late 60s when I did this. And, her son was probably 25 or 27. And the next month when I saw her, she said, Glenn, we cried. My son and I have read everything you've given us, and it spurred us to do more research about my dad so we know him. And so his only grandson knows him. And that was a nugget. They gave me a nugget of something.
Yeah.
And what did it cost me? A couple hours of time and $43. Well, I pay $1,300 for every plane ticket I get to go there. I can afford $43 for a book. But listening to people and identifying things that they don't even know they want, okay? Like a smile, like we were joking a few minutes ago about something. We were both laughing. Well, it makes us both feel better. And
it's medicine.
It's medicine. I mean, and then, and we've got all these guys in harm's way and gals in harm's way right now, potentially in harm's way over in the Middle East. Most Americans today have no clue of what they're going through. But more importantly, they don't know what their families are going through.
Yes.
And so
the ripple effect is real.
It is. So what can we all do to help? Okay. And so, I mean, there are all sorts of things we can do to help. And just think about it. I mean, if there's a reserve unit in your neighborhood, who's notifying people if they got activated? Okay. Hopefully it all calms down and we don't have a bunch of shooting going on. But if it does, who's going to take care of the families? Now, because of Tunnel for Tower and other organizations like that, we've done a good job of helping with people. Have done a good job helping with people, but there's always something else you can do, and it doesn't have to be a lot. If nothing else, I mean, people always say thank you to me for my service, and I say don't thank me. Thank the kids who've spent 6 times the number of days my dad did in combat. I mean, my service, I spent the time, I did it right, but my college got paid for, my master's got paid for, my law school got paid for. That's the reason I stayed, and I felt I owed our country for what they did for me.
Yes.
Okay, so it was me paying back. Now, I wasn't contractually obligated, but there's right and wrong. Okay, and they wanted me to stay, so I stayed. And so it's a process of doing that, and we're also busy. When do we take the time to think about these things? When do we take the time? None of us do it enough. And we all can do better.
It's more than thoughts and prayers and hanging yellow ribbons. It's more than that. That matters too, and thank you for those. But yes, to think about that young man, that young woman. I mean, my oldest that was born when I was in OIF 2, she is now a United States Marine, and she's forward deployed. And it's real, the ripple effect, and it's a whole new generation.
Yeah. Well, in Jackson, Wyoming, one of the 13 guys who died when we were evacuating that little airfield was from here. And there's a rock at the end of High School Road, which High School Road dead ends to the main highway. And there's a rock, and it used to be graffitied all the time. It's not anymore. It's got his name, and it's painted regularly with a heart on it. It's a permanent memorial to that young man's service. Well, people who aren't from here don't get that. And some people have painted over it who weren't from here. who didn't know it, it was quickly fixed.
Yes.
Okay, because that's not for him as much as it is for his mom and dad and his brothers and sisters and his classmates.
Solid point and facts. Yes. Yes.
Because he'll be remembered
Yes.
as long as that's taken care of. And you don't leave anybody behind. But think about all the people who have been left behind mentally and with disability. So last year, 4 years ago, excuse me, 3 years ago, I ran into a very senior person from the VA, and they asked me, "Are you getting all your VA benefits?" I said, "I'm getting none." And they said, "Why?" I said, "Well, the military lost my records." And they said, "Glenn, give me your name, your last four, and I'll guarantee we'll find him within 24 hours." I said, "There's no way in hell." And this person looked at me and said, "Glenn, I can make that happen." I said, "There's no doubt in my mind you can make that happen. But what about my troops? What about my soldiers who've been waiting for 5 years to get something approved or reviewed? That's absolutely effing unacceptable that you could do it for me, but you can't do it for them. I will never take a dime until they're taken care of." And I mean, I still got her business card in my wallet. Okay, because it still irritates me when I see it. And because, I mean, if they can do it for me, they can do it for anybody. They just haven't made it a
Servant
priority.
leader.
You
Servant
betcha.
leader at work. Yeah.
Well,
That
I
matters.
mean,
That matters.
it matters. But the thing is you don't do it for credit. You don't do it for credit. You just do it because it's right.
Like you say, yeah, you do it as right. Yeah.
And therefore, for the grace of God goes I. I mean, I might not have gotten that ROT scholarship. I might have gotten drafted as a E1 and gone to Vietnam and gotten shot up or messed up because some other
Yeah.
things. Okay, well, I was blessed because I got the scholarship. I mean, if we ever stop thinking that way as leaders or as citizens of our country, something's really off. And I'm afraid that it's more today about how much money you've made or what can you do for me, or the old acronym WIFIN, what's in it for me? No, it's not. So if you just take care of others, guess what? They're going to take care of you. And when you
Oh,
have
most
somebody
definitely. Yeah.
and we've had somebody who's helped me for 20 years because sometimes I have a problem with some things. And I mean, after spine surgery, I had problems. He carried my firewood in for my fires. Okay, well, it doesn't change my life to say to his daughter, "Your college is taken care of. You don't got to worry about it no more." She's going to go to med school. I said, "Med school's taken care of. It doesn't matter."
Yeah.
And my kids will celebrate that because they know how much they've helped. And if I hadn't done it, how could I look at myself in the mirror?
Because you could have. Yeah. 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 And that's legacy. That's legacy. I think Pericles, I'm paraphrasing, but it was like that, it's not what's inscribed on statues, it's what's inscribed on the lives of others. And that is a true example right there.
Well, you're talking like a Marine NCO. No, you are. I mean, I respect the Marines. I mean, so have you ever heard of an Air Force colonel named Boyd?
Yeah. OODA loop. Yeah. Observe, orient, decide, act.
Okay, at his funeral, did you know what happened? The Air Force hated him. He was so brilliant, but he didn't have a college degree. He was a physicist without a college degree. So when he died, there was an Air Force. I mean, I don't know if this is true or not, but this is the rumor, right? There was an Air Force lieutenant colonel who was there. He was an '06, right? You're supposed to have somebody equal or higher rank.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an Air Force lieutenant colonel with a three uh, or seven person, no, it wasn't seven, but it was like less than that, honor guard to fire the rounds. Commandant of the Marine Corps was there with a vice and the Marine Corps band and a company of Marines for his funeral.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes. Yeah. He's definitely had an impact on the Marine Corps for sure. For
He
sure.
changed the Marine Corps completely. He made it the incredibly strong. I mean, did you see the commandant on the 250th birthday, his speech that he made?
I'll tell
You,
you
you
this right
should.
now. I love that man. I admire that. You talking about General Smith, and he is. absolutely amazing and one of the most genuine humans I've ever met. You talk about servant leader. I mean, this man,
Yeah.
you know what, when we talk about suicide prevention, which is, a big passion of mine, one of the things he said, and it alluded to what you said earlier, is that he released a video. Number one, Sergeant Major Ruiz had said, Marines, we love you. I've never heard a senior leader say that before, because love is why we die for each other. And that's exactly what the Commandant reinforced on that. And he went on to say that, give us a chance first, Marines. If the sun's coming up tomorrow, then there's a reason to have hope. And it is. And if it's not, then we got way bigger problems than whatever our current things is. But that is a genuine man. Genuine.
What a leader. I listened to
What
his
a leader.
speech. I just stumbled across it, and it's just absolutely astounding what he's done. And I mean, so give you an example. I mean, when the Marines did away with their tanks,
Yes.
I thought
A
it was
lot
one
of
of the
mad people
dumbest
about
things.
that.
Well, I thought it was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard of. And then I saw what the Ukrainians did to the Russians with, a javelin and two additional, you know, uh, ballistics. They had an electric bicycle, two electric bicycles, two guys, a javelin launcher, and 3 rounds. And they took out 80% of the Russian tanks with the javelin electric bikes.
Well, that's that human dimension. That's the real. It's not about the people. It's all about the people. It will
Yeah,
always
but
overpower technology.
well, so the thing about I'm sitting there saying, when I saw that, I said, okay, who's the dumbass? Pardon me, who's the dumb
No, I
guy
love it.
now?
First Amendment.
And
First Amendment's in full effect, Glenn.
yeah, well, it's me because I thought the Marines were nuts about getting rid of their tanks, and just what the Ukrainians proved to us. If a bicycle can take out, the Russian armor,
Hmm.
I mean, now it's evolved since then with with the drones and stuff. But at the beginning of the war, if it wasn't for the javelins and the electric bikes, they'd been overrun.
Look at that will. Look at that. Look
Yeah,
at that will of human
yeah.
beings fighting for a
And,
cause together. Together.
yeah, and the thing about it is most people don't talk about this, but Mrs. Trump, Melania, has talked about it a lot. The 20 to 40,000 children have been stolen by the Russians. How
That,
how
that's
do we
horrific.
how do we ever not hold the Russians accountable for that? That's a leadership issue.
That's absolutely disgusting. Disgusting. And it's just, and I love. I don't know. I'm gonna definitely read the book that you wrote about Warriors Hate War, but I feel like sometimes when I look back on the two campaigns and being in service during global war on terrorism, that like there's no real winner in wars. We all lose something, or we lose ourselves, and just because you can't see certain wounds, there's so many wounds unseen, and what you just described are wounds that are going to be unseen and felt for generations potentially, and that is just a tragedy.
I mean, war crimes are war crimes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And that's a war crime. Period.
Period.
Stealing children. I mean, it won't be much longer where some of those kids are placed into the military, in the Russian military. Can you imagine that? I don't know. It's just sad. And where's our leadership? Where's our leadership?
Well,
So,
there's got to be accountability. It's got to be the accountability on both sides. But accountability pendulum swings, and you know this from being the leader that you are. It's doing the things of what you did, to thank that staff, to hold them accountable in a positive way, to take care of that young staff sergeant that was crushing it, that eventually was a gunny. That's the positive side. The other side is, well, hey, why are people difficult, whether on whatever level? Because they're allowed to be.
well, let me give you the only you can stop you secondary half.
Yes, please, yes,
So the
yes. Help
first
us stop
half
them.
is you don't let anybody else stop you. The second half is, okay, you know what you can do. But the second part is this: when you're put into an ethical situation where you're told to do something that's wrong, or asked to do something that's wrong, only you can stop you.
Mm,
Okay,
yes.
you have to say, I'm not going to do that. And that's the reason I love the phrase so much. Only you can stop you. People think of it as a limiting. People are trying to limit you. Yes, and sometimes you have to limit yourself because what you're being asked to do is wrong. And so it's a very powerful thought. And it's a thought we need to spend more time with because as leaders as our political parties need to think about is, when we're asking our troops, our Marines to go into a tough situation, are you willing to send your son there or your
Yep.
daughter?
Thank you. Thank you. Not the neighbor's kid, but yours.
Yep. Period. It's that's the way it goes. And if you're not, then why are you letting other people do it? Okay. And General Smith, I mean, I'm not familiar with him. I know a lot of 4 stars, but General Smith, I was just taken aback by his presentation.
He and Sergeant Major Ruiz are the best commandant and Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps that I've had, and General Neller too. But there's so many greats. But yes, General Smith is amazing.
Well, it's it's just, I mean, there's some fun. One day when we're not there's no recordings. I'll tell you some fun stories about my
I would love to hear
interactions.
him. I would love to hear him.
Because I mean, I
I would
was
love
around
to
a
hear him.
long time. I was around a long time, and I didn't. I was there to help, and but I wasn't going to let anybody tell me what to do that I didn't think was right. And I had enough
Because only
political
you can
influence.
stop you.
Yeah, but I had enough political influence that I could stop people for doing the wrong things.
That's and sometimes that is the key to everything. Is don't allow it.
Yeah, well, it's like the most people don't know what the most powerful two ranks in the Army are. I don't know if it's probably the same in the Marines. Is a full bird colonel who's not going to be promoted. They know they're not going to be promoted, and they're that senior, which means they got power, and they know where a lot
Mm,
of bodies are buried.
mm,
And a regiment in the Army, it's a regimental or higher command sergeant major who know they're getting ready to retire.
mm.
Okay, you don't mess with those people, and when they say no,
That's true.
you listen to them. And the problem we get is when we stop listening to those people. As a commander, at a higher level, if an O6 tells you this is not doable, now some guys are retired in place. I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about the real warriors, the warrior ethos, and they say, "Sir, that's the wrong thing to do, and these are the reasons." You got to listen,
Yeah, most definitely.
and so and it's like your NCOs. I mean, I was trained by some great NCOs. My dad's old sergeant major trained me when I was young.
That's
He taught me how to.
so your dad's old sergeant major helped train you when you were a junior officer.
No, no, when I was a kid, he taught me how to drive a
Oh, when you were
Jeep.
a kid. Oh, I got you. I got you. I got you.
But no, he taught me how to. He knew I was going to be an officer because my dad kind of destined that. I think. I've always wondered if my dad had any impact on the draft lottery. I'm joking, but
Yeah, yeah. No,
you
no.
know,
Okay, that's good.
but the sergeant major was training me about stuff, and it's it's astounding when you look at people who are concerned about the status, not the results. And when you find those people, you get rid of them.
Yeah, because you know what? It's the through line of also the subject of the cancer treatment and the mortality rates. You know, it's not about your intentions, ladies and gentlemen. It's not about your efforts. It is about the effect. And what is the effect? What is the end state? And we lose sight of that. And I think you just put it in such beautiful words, so simply that the status and not the results. Congratulations on your new parking spot. But what are you going to do with it, leader?
Yeah, well, it's what I love is the guys who take those signs down.
Yes, yes, or hand it out to others. Yeah, I mean, I had a good position at one point, and I would always pick a young Marine that was crushing it in one of the sections in the building, and I would give them that parking spot. Cause I was like, I'll just get more PT by walking from. I'm not that special. You know what I mean?
And the older
They
we
are.
get, the more we need. So,
Yeah,
so
we gotta move it. Body in motion, stay in motion. You know that. You know that more than me.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
it's but it's we could talk forever, I think. But the the things that I you talked about, and the tragedy of the suicides is something that is just hard to comprehend. Now, the
It
PTSD
really is.
program, are you familiar with the Blue Angel Foundation? Have you ever heard
Yeah,
about it?
I'm not fully acquainted, but I've heard of it.
Well, they raise money every year for PTSD training, and they are extraordinarily successful. And they're a great group of people. And it's the foundation. It's not the active people. It's the retired guys, the former members of the Blue Angels, and it's all service. If you look at their most recent thing that I looked at, said that basically 100% of their money goes to actually to doing service, not
Yes.
overhead. So it's one of the
Good.
most efficient foundations, and so they're leaders in addressing PTSD, and my hat's off to them. At least they've got a couple Marines in that organization normally. They,
That's awesome.
the C-130 pilots are always Marines, and they've got one F-18 driver probably. But it's a great organization for that. But the thing is, how can we not have enough money to help those who have served and who are wounded either physically or mentally? I mean, I don't understand it. And
I
so,
don't either. I don't either.
but if you go to look what Tunnels for Towers done, which is just a great
Yes.
organization and a great person leading it. Well, where's our leader who's running that? Now, when Rick Shinseki, who was the chief of staff of the Army, got fired by Rumsfeld for saying we needed 500,000 troops to win the war, Second Gulf War, which we did, but he was right. But he became the head of the VA. And, why wasn't he successful getting the money that we needed to help the vets? I mean, what percentage of the vets have PTSD? Combat vets, it's a large percentage. And it's not just the infantry, other guys. I mean, in
No.
Vietnam, the truck drivers had the highest mortality rate.
Yeah. I mean, arguably, I would
Driving
say that.
convoys.
No, in OAF and OEF, like, yeah, convoys is one of the
Yeah,
scariest things you can ever be on
yeah,
because of the weaponry and
right.
and the insurgent
You're a
warfare
target.
of IED. Yes, you're a
Uh,
target. Yes, exactly.
yeah, and so it's like the medevac pilots. They fly into a hot LZ and they're
Every
hovering
time.
every time.
That's right.
And so I mean, I've joked with some Medal of Honor winners that every guy who is a medevac or woman who is a medevac pilot deserves the medal because every time they did something, it
Yeah,
was above and
hands down.
beyond. Hands down. So I
Yes,
mean,
every
but
time.
but
That was just a Tuesday. Yeah,
yeah, it was Tuesday.
yeah.
One of my friends, his first tour over there, he didn't take a round in his bird one time. And the second tour he was there, he was shot down his first day.
Wow.
It's just that's the randomness of it.
That's the anxieties, and that's how that trauma envelops itself inside of you and just permeates every part of you because you're always on high alert because it can happen at any second. So yeah,
Yeah,
you live in that
exactly.
state.
Yeah, and so it's like, why do some guys misbehave the way they do um, when they're in the tier one levels? And that's because they're in that state. They don't know when they're going to be called, but they know when they're called, they're going to be immediately in a really bad situation. And so, I, I mean, we've got to do better. We've
Got to do
got to do
better.
better.
Yes. No. We may never be perfect on the subject. I had a commander, he was my retiring officer when I retired, and his name's Colonel Brandon. He's one of the greatest men I've ever met, and he said it one time. I was working with suicide prevention, and he came to a meeting that I held. It was all voluntary, and it was about resilience and then sharing the resources because we just don't know. It's not that we don't have resources; it's that sometimes we have overlap, and we just pick one, right? And so he said this. He said we'll never be perfect on this subject, but we can damn sure be better. And that just when you have a
That's it.
commander come in front of everyone and say that that we must be better, and it takes all of us to see a full bird, which their schedule, to take the time for this like offshoot, huddle. I called it resilience huddle. It really inspired because if the colonel's got time to be there, why aren't you here?
Right. Well, there's something else I learned that I don't talk about in this context very often, and that is celebrating your mistakes. Okay,
Yes,
as a
first
as
steps
an
of learning. Yeah,
officer, okay, as an officer, when you're in front of your troops, they've known when you've made a mistake. Okay,
yes,
And the NCOs at least know it every time. So if you announce your mistake and you celebrate it and you ask the question, is there anything else that I should have done differently to achieve a better outcome? That's not a statement from weakness. That's a statement from strength.
Yes, it is. And it's inspiring.
Because we all make them every day. And
Amen.
if you go back and once it's over, it's over. But you have to learn from your mistakes. So if
Yes.
you celebrate your mistakes and you accept responsibility for your mistakes, General Mattis, when they were doing the Fallujah case study, what I was told, again, I was not there, but it was being done in D.C. and he came in from the pond, across the pond,
Mm-hmm.
and he heard about this case study going on, and he went there, and he briefed the study team about all the mistakes he made. In the room was a former company commander and former battalion commander from his division while he was there, and he asked the following question: "Those are the mistakes I know I made. What mistakes did I make that I haven't addressed?"
That's
General
humility.
Mattis.
Wow. Yes.
Okay,
Humble warrior.
but the point was, he said, we're trying to identify every problem we had and what we could have done differently. If I
Yes.
don't say it's okay to criticize me, okay, what am I doing? So in the Navy, what you do is every trap is graded. It doesn't matter who you are, your traps are graded. Well, we don't do that in the other services. Does that make sense? The aviation does it on the
Yeah.
carriers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, we should all be grading ourselves and then asking our NCOs and our troops, what can I do better? It's been a long time
We
since we've
need it.
had somebody like Mattis.
Well, we need people to care, and Marine Corps has a slogan, be firm, be fair, but it's also about being there and caring. And what it's the old adage. I've heard it, Pat Summit. I've heard it from many of sources, but nobody really cares how much you know until they know how much you care. So it goes great lengths. It really does, and I just want to tell you thank you for your continued service and for the service is not just in uniform. Service is not just, when you were practicing law. It goes on words to the young lady that you're willing to help out and help her reach her full potential. It goes on to the little things like the nurse and what the validation and the sense of just connection for that grandson that never knew, and it goes a long way. So I just, as a fellow human, as a fellow warrior, a fellow humble warrior, I really want to tell you thank you, Glenn. Thank you, and for what you're
Thank you.
continuing to do.
Well, the one thing, there is one misconception about me, even though as a lawyer, I was never a JAG. I
Yeah,
they asked me, no, I wouldn't do that. It was like,
yeah.
if I was going to be
Hey.
there, I wanted to do something. So they do, yeah.
I
So,
love it. I love it.
yeah.
I
But
appreciate you,
anyway, now,
boss. Thank you.
yeah, thank you, and thank you for your show. And okay, one of the things I
Yes,
insist on adding at the end, if there's ever anything I can do for
please.
you, please let me know. If there's ever anything I can
I
do for you,
I
let me know. It was I'll be an honor
I'm
to help.
I'm grateful for that, and I've learned through my time of life, I'm never too proud to not ask for help. I've been there, and it usually doesn't go well. Y'all heard that right? It's nothing wrong with asking for help and reaching out to resources. I appreciate that, and any way that Cam can help Glenn and help you help others, well, that's a win-win for the human team that we are, because it's one team, one fight. I stole that from actually Colin Powell's book. It worked for me. I've been saying it for years. One team, one fight.
One
And
fight.
a lot of times I say one team, one ugly ass fight, because that's what it is.
But
But we, like it or
well,
not, we all we got.
if you drop me a note with an address, I'll send you a signed copy of that Warriors Hate War. And then if you want additional copies to give people who you're helping serve with the resilience issue, just tell me how many you need. They'll be there quickly.
I appreciate it. I'm going to do the same for you because, I wrote a book called Thank You Warriors that 100% of the profits go towards veteran service organizations. So I'm gonna get that return address and I'm going to send you some and you
Thank you.
distribute them however you like to, sir. Thank you. Thank you sincerely.
Thank you.
I do always
Thank
ask
you.
one question. Yes, always. One team. Like it or not, we all we got. That's what I say. I do always ask every guest as we close, and please, Glenn, if you feel like you want to come back, I would love to have more conversations with you. Sincerely, I say that, and you are always welcome. If you ever want to bring up and say the new book's coming out this day and anything you want, man, you're always welcome here, sir. But I want to ask you, because the veteran suicide, because active duty suicide, reserve, it doesn't matter. Warriors, our nation right now, it is a plague, and it's terrible. If someone right now was listening to this and they were contemplating death by suicide, and you had the opportunity, Glenn, to say something to them, what would you say, my friend?
First thing I say, where are you? I'll be there. I'm going to be there immediately. And the first thing I'm going to do when I get there is I'm going to hug them. And I'm going to say, there, but for the grace of God goes I. And then let's just talk. Let's just talk. And know that I will always be there. Know that I just said it. I mean, I always ask, what can I do to help? But I will always be there to help. And you know something? Every one of your comrades will be there too. We fight wars for the people that are foxholes, not for the politician. Yeah, and that's it. And one of the things that happens when people get out of the military, they lose that closeness.
Yes.
And so where are you? I will be there. Okay. And if you're someplace I'm not, I guarantee you I know somebody who can be there within an hour. And they will be there until I get there.
Y'all heard that. But he's not a mind reader.
Oh, where are you? Just tell me where you are.
That's it.
No, where are you? I mean, come on, dude. I mean, we've all had bad times. Okay. It's like when my dad died, he was, my best friend, and I had to do his eulogy, and we had to change his ribbons in his uniform because he would never wear a Purple Heart, because that was the award that people got when he failed. And so I had to read. Sergeant Major Army was there, and he gave me the revised. He was well known for this, for his ribbons, and we had to open his casket up and change his ribbons. And then I did the eulogy. And I said in the eulogy, if I'm half the man that my dad was, I'll be success. Because I've never been tried the way he was. So what we always need to remember is that the people who have really been tried have a harder time every day. But that doesn't mean that they're stronger than you are, or that you're weaker than they are.
They may need you. They need you. They may need you. Wow. That is so powerful. That is so powerful. I just say thank you, Glenn. You talk about nuggets. You talk about dropping gems. You've dropped them all over here, and I just thank you for sharing them with us. And time is it's the one currency we spend every day. We don't know our remaining balance. So for you to give that precious gift of time to me and to any listener out there, again, thank you. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I know this one. TIME. That's it. That's right. Not because of compliance, but because of respect, love, and loyalty. And that's resilience. Yes. Yes. Glenn, thank you so much. And I will I ain't no sir no more. I will do that. I don't want to publicly say it now because some people don't like me that listen to the show. So I'll send it to you. We got to laugh. And leadership ain't always popular, but it is what it is. Thank you for your service, and thank you for your continued service. And I'll tell you this, you are a light in this world. Keep shining. And sometimes what is to give light must endure burning, in the words of Dr. Viktor Frankl. But I thank you for sharing your light with us. It is a privilege. Ladies and gentlemen, people of the world, the outer space, anybody's listening. It could be extraterrestrial listening to me right now. And if you are, thank you for listening. I appreciate you tuning in. Remember, this show is not monetized. We have no ads. So this show is sponsored by Nobody, baby. Yeah, that's right. That's Keith Sweat. Cam can't sing, but I can record a podcast. Thank you to Glenn. Thank you to anybody out there serving. Remember, do not be too proud to reach out for support. People want to help you. One team, one ugly fight, this thing called life. Much love, world. Thank you again, Glenn. Make good choices. Take care of each other.